what took place in Los Angeles. I noticed you said that you mentioned earlier in the evening that there was police brutality and that there was an atrocity committed. Could you exactly explain what the incident was?
There was police brutality and there was atrocity, and the press was just as atrocious as the police, because they helped the police to cover it up by propagating a false image across the country that there was a blazing gun battle which involved Muslims and police shooting at each other. And everyone who knows Muslims know that Muslims don't even carry fingernail file, much less carry guns. So that the blazing gun battle that the Los Angeles papers were writing about actually consisted of policemen's guns who were blazing away at unarmed Negroes, so-called Negroes, and whom they murdered and shot down in cold blood. And how it happened is, according to our information, about 11:15 last Friday night, after the meeting was over, two brothers who worked for dry cleaners had some clothing in their car that they were giving to another brother, and the two white policemen pulled up to question them. In other words, he probably thought that they were burglars or something, or thieves. And when he stopped to question them, they stopped and began to give him whatever information he asked. But he got fresh with them, told them to get up on the curb, which they did. And one brother, in explaining it, was talking with his hands, and the officer told him, don't talk with his hands. So he took one hand and held it down. So he brought the other hand, and he was still talking, and the officer grabbed it and started twisting it. And from the information that we've been able to gather, the other brother moved in to help him. And when he moved in to help him, the other policeman moved in, and a struggle took place. And while they were struggling with each other, a dance hall cop, a cop who is the officer on duty in the dance hall, saw the struggle, and he started shooting. And this caused an alarm to go out to all police cars. And instead of them coming and converging on the place where the incident was occurring, they went straight to our house of worship, our mosque, which was a block away. And when they got to the mosque, they drew up with their guns drawn and shooting. They were shooting the bullets not into the air, but at the mosque when they pulled up. And the secretary of the mosque, the one who was shot down by them, by being the official, he went up and asked the police what did they want. And it was while he was asking them what they want that they shot him through the heart. And when he fell to the sidewalk, they beat him in his head and handcuffed him and left him laying there on the sidewalk for 45 minutes. And one of the brothers who was in the police car being taken to the station overheard one cop say, what is the ambulances rushing for? There's only niggers been shot. And then when this same cop got to the station, he said to the brother, I hope you don't feel bad toward me for what I said back there under the heat of emotion, because some of my best friends are Negroes. In the shooting that took place, 7 men were shot. 7 Muslims were shot. None of them were armed. None of them were struggling. None of them were fighting. None of them were trying to defend themselves at all. And after being taken to the police station, they were held for 48 hours and weren't even given hospitalization. We have one now who's completely paralyzed. We just got all of them free last night. The one who didn't die was shot an inch above the heart, and the bullet passed through his body. The other, and another bullet went through the same person's penis and went right through his body. A second person was shot through the groin and through the hip. And the bullet came out the hip. And a third person was shot through the arm. And a fourth person had his teeth kicked in, not broken out. The whole lower ridge of his jawbone was broken, and his head was battered. And one policeman was bragging about he broke his club over a nigger's skull. And the other cop said you should have had one of the new kind, because then it wouldn't have broken. Now these 4 men whom I just described, when we got them out on bail, the police had them in the police corridor. Since they had torn their clothes off of them while they were arresting them, they turned them loose out in the police corridor with no medical attention whatsoever and with no one to guide them or help them. This is where we found them. We took them to the hospital, the Avalon Hospital on Avalon and Slauson. And the medical attendants there couldn't believe that these men had received such damages and were held in jail instead of being taken to the hospital immediately. And later on that night, the police discovered that they had let one man go by mistake. And so they sent out an alarm for him. We called the police when we learned that they had mistakenly let one of the brothers go, and told the police that this brother was in the hospital. They went to the hospital, and instead of letting the brother stay there, they took him in custody, and the nurse on duty tried to stop them, and the police attacked her. A nurse who has nothing to do with the case, and you can telephone Mr. Roth, who is the administrator of the hospital, and he will tell you these incidents himself. So they rearrested this brother, despite the fact that the medical chart said that this man shouldn't be moved and that he should have immediate medical attention if he were to be held in custody. They took him and held him in jail, and we just got him released today. He was held another 24 hours with no medication whatsoever. So I should point out, too, that in the excitement when the alarm was sent, because we have persons in Los Angeles who have police radio and actually listened to the broadcast that was being sent out to the radio cars, and the radio cars were sent to the mosque, which is our house of worship, instead of being sent to the place where the incident took place. One of the officers also was bragging to another officer about we shot one of their top officials, showing you that when they pulled up there, they did recognize that this brother whom they murdered was the secretary of the temple. And one of them also said, while they had broken down the doors and broken into the place and were still shooting inside the mosque and knocking over chairs and scattering drawers and other debris about the place, they said, we need to burn the place down because they're going to declare it subversive pretty soon anyway.
Now, Mr. X,
and I might add this, that while the men were standing up, after they had submitted to arrest, while they were standing up, the white officers came in and kicked each one of them to try and get them to react so that they could execute more violence against them. Because the brothers didn't react to the kicking, then the officers split their coat, the suit coats up the back, and their pants, which made their pants drop on the floor. And still the brothers didn't react. Then they come in and started bragging about that they had just shot 4 of their brothers and they're laying out there on the ground. What are they going to do about it? And the brothers still didn't react, so the police ordered them and made them walk out of the mosque into the street with their pants dragging on the sidewalk, with their privates hanging down. This was all done to humiliate them, to try and provoke them. And this happened in Los Angeles last Friday night. In the United States of America, not South Africa or France or Portugal or any place else, or in Russia behind the Iron Curtain, but right here in the United States of America.
Because I want to find out more about this incident, I was wondering whether you might answer this. Do you have any particular instructions which you give the brethren regarding if they are questioned by police in any circumstance?
All Muslims are always told to do just what these brothers did. When the police come up to one of us, no matter what we're doing, we immediately submit to their questioning. If they say, come on, let's go to the station house, we go voluntarily. And you can read in police files across the country that in their own reports they admit this. The only time there is ever any violence involving Muslims with policemen is when that policeman attacks the Muslim. And the only 2 brothers that night who resisted the police were the initial 2, and they resisted only to the degree that they had to defend themselves against the violence that the police was executing against them. But the other men who were shot down in front of the mosque, in front of the temple, in front of the house of worship, they were shot down in cold blood, not because they were resisting, but they shot down while they weren't resisting.
I noticed before when I was going around to do this little program which we're putting together about this whole evening, and the program was in session, when I went up to some of the people who are in the Black Muslim movement and asked them which point of view corresponded to their own, that they were very silent on the question, and that very often one of the brothers would tap the other and call that to his attention.
Yes.
Would you mind explaining why?
Yes, you will find that a Muslim won't answer any of your questions unless someone, especially about our organization or about our religion, a Muslim is not going to give you any answers unless there is one person. Wherever Muslims are, there's always someone in charge. If there's 3, there's someone in charge. If there's 4, someone's in charge. If there's 2, someone is in charge. And when you come up, if you ask the person who's not in charge, he'll refer you to the one who is in charge. That's our discipline. But now, on the other hand,
it's a somewhat authoritarian group in this respect.
We respect authority. Not only do we respect the authority of our own officials, we respect the authority of police officials. And I say the police admit this. So that when these police say that we were resisting them, the only time a Muslim resists a policeman is when a policeman attacks him. and you have to do something to defend yourself.
Now, one final question, if I may. What course of action do you expect you'll be taking now regarding this incident in Los Angeles?
What course of action are we expected to take?
Yes.
In regards to this incident? We believe in God. We believe in justice. We believe in freedom. We believe in equality. And we do believe that God, our God, the supreme being, whose proper name is Allah, will execute judgment and justice in whatever way he sees fit against the people who are guilty of this crime against our people in this country. And we believe religiously that the tornadoes that tore up the country are all part of God's plan. We believe that God will, every time a Muslim, one Muslim, the least Muslim, is in any way molested, we believe that 10 of the best persons the molesters have will be taken off the scene by God himself. By God himself.
Now, but what about
in one manner or another?
In the community itself, do you plan, for example, do you welcome the assistance of groups like the NAACP?
The NAACP president in Los Angeles, Ed Warren, was one of the first ones to wire a telegram of protest to Attorney General of California, Stanley Mosk.
Well, do you welcome an investigation of the matter, for example?
The matter should be investigated. The matter should be investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. What do they look like running all over this country investigating things that are of no consequence, and they haven't got sense enough to go into Los Angeles and investigate the Gestapo tactics of the police department out there? What do they look like condemning Eichmann for what he did in Germany, or the Nazi for what they did in Germany, and you've got some Gestapo tactics being practiced by the police department in this country against 20 million black people, second-class citizens, day in and day out, not only down south, but up north. Los Angeles isn't down south. Los Angeles isn't in Mississippi. Los Angeles is in the state of California, which produced Earl Warren, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and Richard Nixon, the man who was Vice President of this country for some 8 or 9 years and who wants to run for president again.
Thank you very much, Mr. X.
You're welcome.